All right, how's everybody doing? Good, excellent. What we're doing in here for campers and for guests who came in to see the show, this is Andy Royston, and he is a designer and photographer. And what's very interesting is he's been using his iPhone to take pictures at the beach. So if you can just kind of picture in your mind maybe going to the beach with a regular camera or a very professional camera with a very big lens, there's a lot of things that you have to adjust and take care of when you're out on the beach. With an iPhone, you have, I'm just going to show you, this is actually the camera from an iPhone. Can you guys all see that little tiny thing? Right? So this is the camera from an iPhone. I found this in my drawer. And basically, this is what is taking the pictures that you're about to see. And you can see that the camera technology, right, has gone from being giant cameras that you would have to sit perfectly still for quite a while to get your black and white photograph, to something that's very, very interesting and everyone is going to end up having in their pocket at some point, right? So this is just to give you an idea of what you can do with your cell phone camera, your smartphone camera, okay? So some really cool pictures. And for the campers today, I want you guys to try to identify some of the animals that you see up there, okay? Everybody ready?
Yeah.
All right, so this is Andy, everybody. Let's give Andy a round of applause.
Hello, everybody. I'm Andy Royston, and I'm one of these crazy guys who walks on the beach every morning. And I started doing it to keep fit, because somebody said I needed to lose weight, and they were right. I haven't lost much weight, but what I do now is I walk up and down the beach every morning, probably before most people are up. I tend to get there really early, because I like it when it's quiet. And while I was walking, I would see this beautiful sunrise, and there was nobody else around, and I had this in my pocket, so I'd take a picture of it. And gradually I started thinking, I'd like to share this with other people. So what I started doing is I opened up a Twitter account. I'm sure some of you know about Twitter. I could upload the photograph directly to social media from the beach. That way, I didn't have to keep it to myself. I could share it with other people. And the other thing was, I've got like a proper digital camera, but I'd get it wet. I'm one of these guys, I just walk with shorts and t-shirt, my car keys, and a phone. And in the end, I tend to take, if there's a sunrise, I'll walk into the ocean to take it. And what happened was, I'd get my proper digital cameras wet, and they break. Whereas these guys are quite, I wouldn't recommend taking this into the water without a bit of practice, but that's how I started taking these pictures. I want to show you something really cool to start with. And I was at the beach this morning, and today was very, very special, because today was the first turtle nest on the beach at Fort Lauderdale. Now they come and nest in Fort Lauderdale for most of the summer, and most of the time you'll see the yellow tape that protects the nests, but really, really early on when the sun rises, this is when the turtle patrols see the nest for the first time. And what's really cool here is that this is the track of the turtle coming out of the ocean. This here is the nest. And what they've done is they've buried the eggs in here, but they've thrown a load of sand around, and then they've toddled off back to the ocean again. And I love that. This is the very first one in Fort Lauderdale this year, and I was right there just before Turtle Patrol covered up the nest. And what they do is they cover it in tape. So this is the really exciting part of the morning for me. And this was about maybe 7 o'clock this morning. So that's a fresh picture. I took that today. So I wanted to share that with you. But basically, I started taking pictures of things on the beach that I really like. And the whole idea is, I want to take pictures that excite people. And you know, it's all very well seeing something really nice and cool on the beach, like a shell. But I like the idea of taking a picture that makes the shell look natural and puts it in its own natural environment. Now, these are called lightning whelks. I've got one in my hand here, I'll show you later. But I don't just want to pick it up and take it home. I want to take a picture of it that makes it look like it's at home on the beach. So I get the phone and get really close to it, and I try to take pictures in different ways. You know, that's from above. And I just like to see what different ways you can take a picture of a shell. So you can just play around with your cell phone and take different angles and different lights. Now here's a really cool picture. And I'm not so good at taking pictures of this guy because they're very, very rare. And I've only seen about maybe 10 of these. That's called a jacintha, also known as a purple sea snail. Now what's really cool about this is it's not a snail. It's a creature that lives in this perfectly little, it's a very fragile purple shell. But do you see all this here that looks like foam? That's a sail, and it gets around the ocean on it. It's like a raft that it lives on. So the creature is inside here, but this is how it gets around the ocean, and it floats on the surface of the ocean. These creatures are called hydrozoa, and it's basically, they live on the ocean and they get around in the wind. Now, they don't often land on the beach. Now that's why I love this particular picture. And when I see them, I will try my hardest to get a decent picture of one. And they're very, very beautiful. They're very small too, and the thing with the phone is that you can't get too close without it getting blurry. But what I try to do is take a picture of them so that you can see what they're doing. And they're very, very fascinating. And that's why I like taking pictures of little things on the beach, because I didn't know anything about this guy until I started taking pictures of it. And I thought, let's have a look on the internet and find out more about it. And when I found out more about it, that it gets around the ocean with this really crazy raft thing, every time I saw one, I've taken pictures of it to see if I can get a better picture of it. There's another one in black and white, and it's almost like you can almost see echoes of, you know, the way that turtles have their skin. It's the same kind of thing, but it's see-through. It's like, it's not like foam, like bubbles. It's like plastic. It's amazing. And every so often I'll come across one of these things, and they tend to be in on the seaweed. Now, I know lots of people don't like seaweed, but seaweed brings all sorts of wonderful things. This is another wonderful creature. Now, they look like sweet wrappers, like candy wrappers. And I tend to, at first I didn't see them, because they look like bits of paper. But what they are wonderful little sea creatures where they've got a sail. And that sail is what gets them around the ocean. They're really, really cool. And they're like the size of maybe, the palm of your hand. And they're always blue, and they blow in on the wind. And they're really, really beautiful. And I try to get pictures of them to give them a bit of dignity, because everybody misses them. You know, you go to the beach and you sit on the sand and you splash in the waves. But there's little creatures like this hidden away that nobody sees. And this is another wonderful creature. This fella here, that's called a popita. And it's like a starfish, but it's related to this fella. This is another one of those, what they call by-the-wind sailors. I should have told you what they're called. And this is the inside of a by-the-wind sailor. And that's like little tentacles, that's where it feeds. It's almost like its mouth. But this fella here, it's like a snowflake when it's on the water. It's got lots of beautiful strands coming off the edges of it. And it's smashing. It's a really, really lovely thing. And here's another one of those by-the-wind sailors. And when they dry out, they look like that. So if you see those on the beach hidden away, that's a by-the-wind sailor that's dried out and died. Because the sad thing about these hydrozoa creatures is they blow around with the wind. It's not like you can throw them back out in the ocean and they can swim. They don't swim. They blow like kites, or if the wind is blowing off the ocean onto the beach, these creatures are kind of doomed, really. They're going to land on the wall. Now, I always take pictures of these things. Now, who knows what that is?
Jellyfish.
It's not. It's a Portuguese man of war.
I know it.
It's not a jellyfish. They look like jellyfishes, but they're much more interesting than that, because they are actually, it's another hydrozoan. It gets around the ocean, but unlike jellyfish, which are underwater, these things blow around in the wind, and they blow onto off the ocean, tend to come in with the seaweed. This was taken on that wonderful day when all the wind blew. I don't think you heard about this, but Fort Lauderdale beach for one day was covered in these things. And the other thing that you need to know about these, if you've not come across them, is they're quite stingy. So don't pick one up. Don't be tempted to pick them up. They're very, very fascinating creatures, But you know, like you don't fall into a holly bush if you see a holly bush. You don't pick up like a rose has got thorns. This is a sea creature that can be a bit stingy and can give you a bit of a rash if you wrap yourself round one. They have tentacles that when they're actually out on the ocean, they've got these incredible tentacles. So what I tend to do is try to take pictures that bring them to life a little bit. Now this fella, I'm not at all sure what this is. I did a lot of research about it. It's like an ice hockey puck, but it's see-through like glass. It's a jellyfish, and I think it's one from the Pacific coast, and I don't know how it got here, but I find this an absolutely amazing little thing. And this is another one of those hydrozoans, the man-o-war. This sail that you see on the left-hand side here, that's how it gets around the ocean. And when they're freshly landed, they kind of flex in the sun, and they stretch upwards. And you can tell the ones that are alive because they've got much more colour in them. And that's what I like to take pictures of. I like to try and get the colours of them. Because when they're kind of dying off, they tend to fall on one side, and all the colour drains out of them. And it's quite sad, really, because they haven't really got much of a chance once they hit the beach. And everybody hates them because they're stingy. So what happens is, the city come along with their big trucks, and they scoop them all up. They scoop up the seaweed as well, so that when you go to the beach, it's beautiful and clean and not going to sting you like this little fella. But I like these guys. I think they're fun. I don't want to touch one. And when I'm walking on the beach, and like you should as well, I would definitely avoid standing on the strings of them. That's the stingy bit. The bit that it gets around with, the big sail, that is like a jellyfish. I agree with you there. But that there is a very cool picture because that's the stinging cells. Now they're spiral. Now you don't often get close enough to see them, and they're not usually as colourful as this one. But what these little spirally things are the stinging cells. Now they're fascinating. Don't touch them because what will happen is they're like a bee sting. So it's best to just look at them. But they really are fascinating, and they've got lots of beautiful details. And that there, though, is another sea creature that shouldn't be on the beach. That is a sea slug. Sea slugs, it looks so gross, but it's a proper slug. It's quite big too. It's about the size of a watermelon, and you don't often see them on the beach, but if you do, they don't look very pretty at all. But again, they're one of these amazing creatures that have landed on the beach by accident, really. It's usually if there's been a lot of wind. And there's another sea slug, not very happy with itself. But there are other cool things.